That was a hell of a hit, wasn't it?
Is that the moment what's going to give them the sort of mentality and the edge to now go and win the Premier League?
It might end up being one of the goals of the season, as you said, one of the most significant moments. But Mikel Arteta felt heartbroken afterwards. But you thought that he approached the game a little bit negatively, a bit too cautious. So you think it's a missed opportunity?
I do a little bit, yeah, because Liverpool aren't quite in their rhythm yet. And Arsenal just, for me, didn't really try and hurt them enough. I thought Marino coming in for Odegaard was quite a negative change.
But Odegaard's had some
I mean, you've got Eberechi Eze, who is presumably chomping at the bit to play. I thought apart from Madueke, Arsenal as an attacking force were very disappointing. Gyökeres went missing in action, and he's been poor now at Old Trafford and Anfield. Obviously, he scored a couple of goals against Leeds. Does beg the question, is he going to end up being a flat trap bully and maybe not be able to do it against the big sides?
Early in this race, why would you not, put all your big guns on and go, right, come on, we're going to put it on you and see if you can handle us.
A point would have been a brilliant result, and they probably did deserve one, but did they do enough to win the game?
It's Premier League All Access with Sam Matterface, Alex Crook and Premier League legend Kevin Nolan. And we're recording this on Sunday night after all the games have finished, but ahead of deadline day. It's going to be a busy one. Kevin Nolan is with us. Welcome to the podcast, Kev. We're delighted to have you.
Oh, thank you, lads. Such a privilege to be with two legends of the game. If you're calling me a legend, I've got to call you two legends, because
we're going to be all lovely to one another.
I listen to you all the time and I enjoy it, lads.
Well, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Look, it is transfer deadline night. So if you're a player, what are you feeling if you're on the brink of a big move? And if you're a part of a coaching team or a manager tonight, what's going through your brain?
Well, because I am a manager, Sam.
Yeah,
I've still got a couple.
You're not going to lose anyone while we're on air, are you? Because Northampton need all the players they can get.
Yeah. All the help we can get, mate. All the help we can get, we'll take. But no, as a player, I moved on. I moved on deadline day. From Bolton to Newcastle, it was a really tough one. If I'm honest, knowing that I was leaving Bolton, but what a time, and as players, you just think, I need to get to your new club, and going to Newcastle was obviously a great move for me. And so I must admit, mate, I'm really looking forward to it. As a manager now, I'm quite content. I think if we can get a couple over the line in the next 24 hours, be brilliant. But if not, I'm not too worried, because you know where your squad's at.
Okay, let's talk about the transfers that we expect to see in the Premier League over the course of the next 24 hours. You're the man who's going to be on duty tomorrow, deadline day. Special show with Jim White, 6:30 tomorrow. talkSPORT, definitely the place to be to follow all the action. This man's broken more stories than Kevin's broken windows in back gardens with free kicks. Let's talk Martinez first of all, Emi Martinez, because that's the big story as we sit here on Sunday night. Because when asked about what's going to happen with his goalkeeper, he was rather fiery, Unai Emery, in a pre-match interview. He was asked the reason for his absence in the team against Crystal Palace. He said, Marco Bizot. He was asked, where is Emi Martinez? He said, Marco Bizot. He was asked, who will be your future goalkeeper? He says, Marco Bizot. He's obviously upset about the fact that Emi Martinez is on the verge of a move somewhere.
Or certainly that Martinez has had his head turned. I think, speaking of sources close to Aston Villa, Unai Emery felt that maybe Martinez wasn't fully committed for this game. Obviously, the backup goalkeeper has come in and conceded a penalty, and they've been on the end of a hiding, so that won't improve his mood. But this has come somewhat out of the blue. Manchester United were interested in Emi Martinez earlier in the summer. Then it went very quiet, and you may remember after the Arsenal game, United sources were telling me that the goalkeeper wasn't a priority position heading into the last couple of weeks of the window. Clearly something has changed. They stepped up talks with Seny Lammers, the young Belgian at Royal Antwerp, but that one has gone a bit cold in the last 24 hours, 48 hours or so. And they're certainly exploring a move for Martinez, whether that's a loan deal or a permanent transfer. It remains to be seen. But I was told they won't sign both Martinez and Lammers. So I think we're going to get an idea here of what direction the club wants to go in. Lammers is obviously a young, up-and-coming goalkeeper. Martinez at the different stage of his career, the opposite end of the spectrum, if you like, but he's a World Cup winner. He's a self-proclaimed best goalkeeper in the world. He's won that award as well. I think most Manchester United fans probably would prefer to go down the experience route because they've taken a punt on outside Bayern Deer and to a certain extent Andre Onana, and it's not really worked for them.
Kevin, as a manager, can you understand Unai Emery's frustrations?
Yeah, I can understand it, but I think you only have to look at the end of last season, and it was all circulating then with the Man United rumours. So for it to go to the last day it seems a bit strange for me. I must admit it's he was crying, walking around the pitch at the end of the season. It seemed that he was going to leave. So for it to get to this point, and you think that it's going to happen, that's where the frustration probably comes with Unai, because he probably knew that he was one who was going to leave, and then you get to the end of the window, and you're thinking he ain't going to go, and then you get to your game today, and all of a sudden he's not there. So yeah, it's a strange one for me. I must admit, from looking from out to in, it's a really strange one, but something which I'm not surprised by, because from last season going into this season, I thought he was not going to be an Aston Villa player.
He's always thought that he could be a #1 goalkeeper at a big club. He played for Arsenal in an FA Cup final, made a move after that. Obviously, has won the World Cup with Argentina. Fancies his chances now and possibly at Manchester United. Interesting, though, in the same game, you have a scenario where Emi Martinez isn't going to play because he might be on the verge of a move. There's so much speculation about Martin Guehi, yet he plays in the game tonight and scores one of the best goals that we'll see this season, Crook.
Yeah, and sometimes the fates just align, don't they? Because it's not every day of the week that Mark Gay pops up with a 20-yard screamer into the top corner. You wonder if that is his parting gift to Crystal Palace fans who were singing his name all night as well, and singing about him going up to lift the FA Cup, obviously as Palace captain. I think Oliver Glasner is still loath to lose him. We were at Anfield, obviously, today, and Liverpool kept a clean sheet. It was a better defensive performance, but Konate went down injured toward the end, really exposing their lack of options in the centre-back area. So I do expect this deal to get done, even though Gay played for Palace. And I think when you look at the Alexander Isak situation, Johan Wissa, who obviously released a bombshell statement this morning, Martinez's head not right to play for Villa. I think you've got to praise Gay for being professional, doing his job and delivering for the team. And actually, Eberechi Eze did the same right up to the last minute as well. So that tells me the culture at Crystal Palace is very, very good.
Yeah, and Oliver Glasner needs probably giving a big pat on the back for that. And another great performance by his team tonight. And actually, they were under the cosh. They were sitting back. Gay takes matters into his own hands. The game completely changes and they get over the line again. They were the better team in the first half. They weathered a bit of a storm and they did well to get all 3 points. A bad start to the season, though, for Aston Villa. We're going to the international break. Second bottom in the Premier League. And you don't sort of need that pressure. And I sort of suggested to you, I thought there might be a bit of a disappointment this year because I wonder whether or not there's a bit of a hangover, actually. And Kevin, you might be able to answer this. If your team get into the Champions League, all of a sudden everybody is bubbling hot. Their bonuses are paid. The ambition is realised. Everybody wants to go on an adventure with you again. You have 2 consecutive seasons in the Champions League. It can be transformational for your football club. But if you miss out and all of a sudden you find yourself back in the Europa League, or it's not as sexy as maybe playing in the Champions League, you haven't got your Champions League bonuses, they don't have the budget that you would expect them to have. Things change, morale changes, and heads dip a little, don't they?
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. When the problem what you have, Sam, is that you get these players in, and he took a punt, didn't he? Getting Rashford in last year. I think there's a major worry for Villa in terms of PSR, and I think that's why that's probably happened. So for me, this is going to be a big season to see what Villa do and where they end up, because there's it just doesn't seem that everything's happy at the minute. Unai is obviously upset about losing Emi now, but the fact of what's going to happen now from now till the end of the season is a big thing for me. I'm looking forward to seeing where they end up at the end of the season, and if he can do what he's done at previous clubs and go and win the Europa League and gain that money again, because when you're in that Europa League, you only get to the money when you get to the latter stages, and I think that's what they'll be expecting.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting listening to Alan Pardew actually on the way home from Liverpool tonight. At halftime, he was saying, you might not know because not everything is always reported.
Yeah.
That there might be, with 24 hours to go before the deadline, not just Emi Martinez making moves to try and get out of Aston Villa. There might be 3 or 4 players that are doing that. You've got to contend with that as a manager. Have you ever been in a dressing room where it does feel like you're at the end of a window or at the end of a cycle and people are trying to move on or trying to maneuver their way out? Have you got any examples of what it's been like in a dressing room like that?
Well, I can remember Andy Carroll going to Liverpool. It was unbelievable. We were sitting there, and Tottenham and Liverpool were literally going toe to toe, and he ends up going to Liverpool. Everyone sort of trying to find out where Andy Carroll was, and he was at my house sitting there, and his agent there, and he was a good friend of mine, and they were sitting there going, well, Tottenham for that one or that, and Andy didn't want to go. Andy didn't want to leave, but Mike Ashley and Derek Lambias, they were like, no, we've accepted the offer. You need to go, so pick one. Yeah, and obviously you pick Liverpool. So yeah, that was the strangest thing for me, because I was sitting on the opposite couch thinking, I wish that was me. If I was honest, going to Liverpool, but he deserved the move at that moment. He did. He really did. Unfortunately, it didn't work out as well as it did. But yeah, it is strange. Like the next 20. Well, yeah, I don't even think it's 24 hours now, but it's going to be very strange over the next 12 hours or so. Even certainly for us, because League One clubs, how it all goes down and how it all filters down is. It's incredible to see. So, but why we're all involved and why we love.
That's so fascinating because I remember working that night. That was the night where the sort of merry-go-round happened, right? Because Torres went to Chelsea and Carroll went from Newcastle to Liverpool. Huge opportunity for him. I mean, you say everyone was looking for him. And no one knew that he was in your house, so they were like sending cameras round everywhere. Was anyone sort of poking through the window trying to find out? Were you having to sort of hide your phone because you didn't want to text anyone?
No,
did you convince him to go to Liverpool over Tottenham?
Well, Sam, let's not go there, mate. Come on. I was saying Liverpool's the one, definitely, obviously. But yeah, no, yeah. Look, luckily enough, I had a long drive, so they couldn't get to see him from the gates. But no, they didn't know where he was, and yeah, he chose Liverpool from what he wanted to do, and it was such a surreal day when you look back and think of it. But at the moment, when you're in it, you don't think anything of it. I was just disappointed because my mate had lost a partner in crime in terms of on and off the pitch, and we were really good on the pitch. And I feel like if we would have kept that team, we would have been, a team to sort of challenge, but it wasn't to be. And I was delighted for Andy moving to such a fantastic football club.
And I suppose that there are direct parallels here because Newcastle had a big number 9 who they revered and wanted to keep, and you lost a partner, and now Newcastle may well lose a number 9 on deadline day in this window, and Anthony Gordon is going to lose a partner, and that will disrupt things at Newcastle. How close do you think that is to happening? You've been telling me all week you're sort of up in the air, 65, 60% sure that it will happen. What is your percentage as we sit here the night before the deadline?
Well, it's a good comparison, isn't it? Other than that, I seem to recall the Liverpool interest in Andy Carroll was not as public as the Liverpool interest in Alexander Isak has been. And it was way back in July, wasn't it, when he refused to go on the pre-season tour, sat out with what was billed at the time as a minor thigh issue. And then literally as Liverpool were on the plane, that was when we first started, as Newcastle on the plane, that was when we first started to get whispers of the fact that actually he wanted to move, and then he stopped using their training facilities, hasn't trained with the first team since, has basically gone on strike and refused to play. All the while, Liverpool have had one bid rejected. They haven't made a second bid. There's been talk that maybe they'll have to pay as much as £130 million. I'd be surprised if the number gets that high. And I think it's all dependent on what Newcastle can do in terms of replacement. They've signed Nick Voltemada, who is going to be the Isak replacement, but that means they still haven't replaced Callum Wilson, who left the club. So they are short of numbers up front. They're trying to address that. Looks like Johan Wisser is going to stay at Brentford. That's our latest information.
Despite the fact that he feels as if he's being held captive?
No, yeah, but I think Brentford are pushing back on the fact any promises were made, similar to what Newcastle have said actually about Alexander Isak. And then you've got Jurgen Strand-Larsen thrown into the equation. So there are dominoes that need to fall. But I think the fact Liverpool haven't got a plan B, and I think they are still short in attack when you look at the fact they've sold Diaz and they've sold Darwin Núñez as well, that's what makes me think this deal will happen. And also, I'm tending to agree with what Stuart Pearce said on game day on Saturday. It's very difficult because Isak has taken such drastic action. He's released a statement. He's refused to play. It's difficult to see how you saw that situation out with Eddie Howe.
Yeah, but, they pushed back on that. The boys on the Game Day Live programme today, Perry Groves and Scott Minto, they said, and I know Troy Deeney said the same thing as what was said to you previously in the week, that there's no way back for him. He can't do it. Stuart Pearce and Troy are of the view that you've quit on us, so you can't come back into that dressing room. But actually, Scott Minto and Perry Groves were more of the opinion. Actually, do you know what? If he comes back in, and we've got a great A-grade player who can certainly contribute to what we're doing, and it will only take a couple of training sessions or a couple of goals, and all of a sudden we'll all be mates again. Kevin, how would you see it if he decided to stay at Newcastle?
I don't think any of the lads will be bothered. I'll be honest with you. I don't think they will. I think he'll walk back into the. Well, obviously they've been talking, chatting. They'll have WhatsApp groups, all that now. Even in my time, going into that point, even when you're pushing for a move or whatever it is, you walk back into the dressing room and the lads are just the lads. They're just there to work. And if you've got one of the best strikers in the world coming back into your group, you're not going to start worrying about falling out with him because he wanted to leave Newcastle, because it that's football. That's just how it is. He wants to go and he believes that he can go to Liverpool and be the better, be better and do the best thing he possibly can and win trophies and everything else. Now, all the Newcastle fans, and look, I've been there, will believe that they've given them the opportunity to do that in the Premier League. But what I'd say is that the players will just be, yeah, you're back in, let's get on with it, let's move on, and let's go. And that's where I firmly believe it would be.
Someone else who might have to go back into a dressing room after thinking that he wasn't going back there again is Nicholas Jackson, who was sold basically to Bayern Munich. He went on a loan with an option to buy at the end of next season, did a pre-contract with Bayern so that it would just go smoothly next summer if it all went well. Got to Munich, went to do his medical, did his medical, passed his medical, and then Chelsea phoned up and said, our number 9's just picked up an injury, you've got to go back. I mean, where are we with this? Because he says the plane doesn't go backwards.
Well, his agent said that, didn't he? Diamansi Kamara, former Portsmouth player, and maybe Kev would have played against back in the day. I don't think he actually got as far as having the medical. He flew in to undergo the medical, and then Chelsea withdrew permission for the medical to take place. He's still hauled up in Germany, I think still hoping that something can be salvaged. My reading of this situation is it's a little bit of a game of poker for Chelsea. Yes, the Delap injury has clearly derailed their plans, but I think they've said to Bayern Munich now, if you really want him, it's either a loan with an obligation to buy as opposed to the option they'd already agreed, or you sign him permanently. But again, it's difficult for Nicholas Jackson, who was all smiles when he touched down in Munich, has clearly accepted the fact that he's going to leave Chelsea because he had his nose put out of joint by the fact they signed not one but two new centre forwards, to then all of a sudden be told, actually, you're coming back to Chelsea basically only until Delap is fit. I can understand why he doesn't particularly want to do that. There is another scenario whereby Chelsea do sign an additional striker. There's talk of Conrad Harder, Sporting Lisbon potentially. So this is certainly going to be one we're going to be tracking right the way through until the window closes, I think.
Ederson was on the bench for Manchester City today. the Turkish window stays open for longer than the English window. In fact, a lot of the top 5 leagues are all sort of quite aligned, aren't they? They've sort of come together. It's why the Premier League are shutting theirs at 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
But the Turkish one is open for a little while. We know that Edison's got an offer from Turkish football, which is big money. The fact that Pep kept him on the bench today, does that sort of indicate that that's likely to go through now and that Trafford is his number one? Trafford made a couple of good saves today, by the way.
Yeah, I think in an ideal world that they've decided to move on from Edison, but equally it's up to the player if he wants to make that move to Turkey. £8 million a year is the contract offer. That would be a Turkish record, but as you say, it's slightly complicated by the fact their window doesn't close tomorrow in line with the Premier League. So do City gamble, bring in Donnarumma in the hope that Edison goes? That could be quite an expensive gamble.
Are they only going to let Edison go if they bring in Donnarumma? Because they signed James Trafford. Clearly, they've signed him to be the number one, or they thought they were going to sign him to be the number one, right?
Yeah, but they need 2 top quality goalkeepers, don't they? So
if Donnarumma comes in, James Trafford's going to be sitting on the bench.
Yeah, and you wonder where his head will be at. But again, as Kev said a couple of times, that is football, isn't it? I think the situation with Donnarumma is just a market opportunity that maybe they didn't think would be there. But I'm not sure how close the deal is because he's on huge wages at PSG. Last time I checked in with sources close to Donnarumma, they were saying, well, actually, PSG's asking price is a lot more than Manchester City want to pay. So, yeah, it's a tricky one.
I mean, if Donnarumma does go to Manchester City and Trafford ends up on the bench, I mean, Trafford should have gone to Newcastle United, shouldn't he?
But would he have ended up on the bench there, behind Nick Pope, because Ramsdale's gone up there. Nick Pope's still number one. So what would he looking at? I was surprised when I seen that. Really, I'll be honest. I know James Trafford had a fantastic season in the Championship with Burnley, but it's really interesting to see that now he's gone, he's become number one. I'd like to know what's gone on because Ederson's been probably one of the top keepers with Alisson and Emi Martinez, I should say, in the Premier League for years. So I don't know why all of a sudden he's not Man City's number one. So it's all been quite a strange summer in terms of goalkeepers for me. But James Trafford would have been believing that he's going there to be number one, or was it the fact that they knew that they could get him back for that money, so that they could sell him maybe for, and gain 10 million in the current market and the way it is now? I really don't understand it. But what I will say is that he wouldn't be happy being number two if they do bring Donnarumma in. So let's see
what happens. I did hear a whisper when I was at the Etihad the other week that I think Edison has said that he does want to go. I don't know if that's anything to do with the fact that the money's on the table is just so big, the opportunity to go and play in a different culture is different. He's got maybe friends out there because there's a lot of Brazilians in Turkish football. I don't know. I did hear that he wanted to make that move.
It's just been a slow burner, isn't it? Because the talks have been there for a while. Same with Donnarumma. Again, it feels a difficult deal to do for Donnarumma on deadline day, but who knows? Things can change quickly.
Deadline day, the place to be across absolutely everything is on talkSPORT. From the minute you wake up right the way to when you finish your day and the deadline passes. In fact, even beyond that, Crook will be on air till 10 o'clock tomorrow night. On air from 6:30 with Jim White, a special show. talksport.com the whole day has a rolling blog which gives you everything. Our connected TV app, you can watch the whole thing on TV from 6 in the morning. We've got all of the reports and all the deals that happen will be on our talkSPORT app as well, where you can also watch and listen to all the programming. So that's the place to be. He's staying with me tonight, Kev. I'm making sure that he's fed, he's watered, he's got everything that he needs.
Yeah, I've seen that. You were looking after him.
Yeah, looking after him. I've taken him for a haircut today as well. Make sure he's all kitted out properly so that he's rested.
Oh, very well groomed.
Exactly. I didn't do the ironing for me.
I did give you the iron.
You did.
But you did it
I dropped
yourself.
a couple of hints that maybe you could
do it, and I did say no. I'm not doing the haircut. I'm not doing the dinner.
Yeah.
I'm not doing the bed. I even showered him, Kev, to be honest. No, I didn't. No, that's going too far. Right, okay. We'll have to wait and see exactly what unfolds as far as the transfer window is concerned. But on the big edition of the Premier League All Access podcast, we're also reviewing all of the weekend's football too. Liverpool 1, Arsenal 0. Crook and I both went to this game, and it was a bit of a frustrating watch at times. In fact, I threw to Crook at one stage during the game, and he went, "Oh, sorry, I fell asleep then." And I thought he was talking about my banter for a second.
Well, that wasn't.
But he wasn't. He was talking about the game until we had that moment. And Kevin, I mean, you've scored some goals in your time. That was a hell of a hit, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I must admit, mate, when I seen it, I was like, wow, because that is a moment, and is that the moment? And I know it's 3 games in. Is that the moment? What's going to give them the sort of mentality and the edge to now go and win the Premier League? Because as you said, we could have all fell asleep and woke up and it was 0-0 and gone, oh, I didn't really miss anything there. But it was a real hard fought sort of game, teams trying to figure each other out. But what I will say is that I was impressed when Eze come on, when Odegaard come on with Arsenal. I thought that there was something there, and it's going to be interesting now. But what a moment! And yeah, let's see where that takes us from there. But what a great start for Liverpool and an unbelievable strike.
It really was an unbelievable strike. It was a breathtaking moment, actually. And interestingly, I was in the tunnel afterwards, and so was Crook. And he was talking to us, and he was saying, I've been practicing a lot this week on taking free kicks. And I don't usually practice because when we have 1 game a week, we're allowed to go out and do that. But when we have 2 games a week, we're not allowed because we've got to rest and we can't get tired. So interesting that he said that I've been practicing that technique for years and years and years, but I only had the chance to really hone it this week because we only had 1 game. I thought that was fascinating, Kevin.
Yeah, and they're the times, and I get, as a player, you're going, well, why can't I go out? I feel all right. I want to go out and kick a ball. I want to kick it into the net. I want to, if you're sort of trying to tune up on things, but on the week to week, you sort of get a little bit of a free rein where you want to do your extras, and people go, well, yeah, you go on, you can go. But I'm like that as a manager now, where the lads are going, can we do a little bit of finishing? And I'm going, you can have 8 minutes. So they literally, and it's like, and I'm looking at it, looking at my coaches, and I'm going, that's 6, and you can see it. But so yeah, it is what happens in the day, which obviously the fans won't see. But yeah, look, well, we're all glad now, aren't we, that he was able to practice, because to see such a strike was fabulous. For obviously not for the Arsenal fans, but for everybody involved in football, it's to see such a great strike and the way it went. And look, Raya done everything right as well. That's what I will say. As a goalkeeper, he was where he was, and as he actually set and everything, and you could see it literally took the inside of the post, and it was in. It was incredible.
Interesting, isn't it? Because everyone was delighted with it, because you couldn't help but be sort of infused by that moment, taken away by that moment, because it was so thrilling. It was a brilliant moment in the Premier League, and we've only had 3 games this season, but it might end up being one of the goals of the season, as you say, one of the most significant moments. But Mikel Arteta felt heartbroken afterwards, and we spoke to him, and he was a little bit more like, the game of football is cruel. We should have got something from this game. But you thought that he approached the game a little bit negatively, a bit too cautiously.
Yeah, and we've seen this before a couple of seasons ago at the Etihad, when Manchester City were missing some key players. I think both De Bruyne and potentially Haaland were absent on that occasion, and Arsenal went there with a very defensive mindset. They got the 0-0 draw, but I remember myself and Adrian Durham having a row on air with Perry Grove saying, you know what, this might come back to haunt them at the end of the season, because it was an opportunity to go to their title rivals, make a statement, pick up 3 points, and they didn't grab it with both hands. And it felt very much that way today. You look at the team changes.
So you think it's a missed opportunity?
I do a little bit, yeah, because Liverpool aren't quite in their rhythm yet. They weren't brilliant against Bournemouth on the opening weekend. They gave chances up in that game. They gave chances up against Newcastle, conceded 2 goals. And Arsenal just, for me, didn't really try and hurt them enough. I thought Merino coming in for Odegaard was quite a negative change. But
Odegaard's had some injuries.
But you've got Everton Eze, who is presumably chomping at the bit to play. I thought, apart from Madueke, Arsenal as an attacking force were very disappointing. Gyökeres went missing in action, and he's been poor now at Old Trafford and Anfield. Obviously, he scored a couple of goals against Leeds. Does beg the question, is he going to end up being a flat trap bully and maybe not be able to do it against the big sides? Too early to make that judgment definitively because we're only 3 games into the season. Martinelli was poor, and actually that continues the trend from the second half of last season. So I feel like Arsenal fans maybe could have demanded a bit more from their team in the circumstances. A point would have been a brilliant result, and they probably did deserve one. But did they do enough to win the game?
Kevin, he never rushes to judgment, as I'm sure you know.
I was just gonna say I can't believe he was arguing with Adrian Durham. You know, Crookie and Durham were arguing. Come on. No, look, I sort of agree with Crookie in this bit. So in terms of, I think, you know, Ebby was ready. He's played enough games, so why wouldn't you start him? Odegaard, you know, you've seen that Liverpool have been vulnerable defensively. So I don't know why. I understand, you know, in terms of sometimes you're thinking, but early in this race, why would you not, you know, put all your big guns on and go, right, come on, we're going to put it on you and see if you can handle us and find out where you're at. And that's probably what I would ask Mickey Arteta if you could. But yeah, I think it could be a bit of a missed opportunity. I sort of agree with Crookie on that. But I can see why he's done it, because obviously the attacking prowess of Liverpool as well. So did he think that he could sort of keep them quiet for 60, 70 minutes and then open them up later on with his tactical changes? As you said, Odegaard, did he have a bit of an injury? You know, Ebby only coming in late on. So yeah, there's always things with managers. But I'm only asking questions on here because it's always insightful to see what they're thinking. But I'm with Crookie. I think Arsenal might have missed a bit of an opportunity on this one.
Well, Liverpool certainly don't seem to be missing any opportunities, despite the fact that they've suffered setbacks in games and not always hit top gear. They've managed to won all of their matches, despite the fact that they went 2 goals up against Bournemouth, threw it away, then won 4-2. You got pegged back to 2-2 at Newcastle, and then ended up coming up with a winner from somewhere. And they've come up with a winner in a magical moment again. That shows a great mentality, I think. Arsenal always been resolute, always been very good defensively, but they did lose their rock, William Saliba, who picked up a twisted ankle in the warm-up to the game, and it actually sort of meant that they were already on red alert when he started the match, and he made a clearance, it didn't work, and then he went down the edge of the penalty area, and they were very quick to bring in Mosquera, who I thought actually did really well, despite the fact that Mikel Arteta was on the touchline and he was sort of complaining about the fact that Mosquera kept going too high. So he was trying to sort of like pull him back into line with Gabriel. But I still think he made a pretty good impact for someone who's never played that many minutes in the Premier League, but certainly not in a game of that caliber in the Premier League as well. Obviously, both of these two are going to be up there for title contenders. So I wonder who else is going to join them, Kev, because I was at Stamford Bridge at the weekend and Chelsea did not have it all their own way.
No, they didn't. And I thought they were very fortunate, because I thought the goal should have stood. You know, I really do. I believe that it was a poor judgment on the refereeing behalf. But I think they've got something now. I think that, you know, as a young side, they've won, you know, the Conference League, which I know everybody thinks it's quite easy. It's not easy to do. You go and do it, as well as they got the Champions League. They went to Forest on the last day of the season. Them young lads, they went to the Club World Cup and won that. So I really believe that they're going to be genuine contenders. You know, they're winning now without Cole Palmer, where everybody thought that they couldn't do that. So yeah, the team that's growing, and you know, Maresca's been in changing rooms where he knows and been under people who've won things and know how to get things over the line and win things. And I think that's sort of coming through when you see Chelsea playing now. They know how to get over the line as well as playing well and winning games. So I genuinely believe they'll be there and thereabouts come the end of the season.
And one of the reasons for that is the over-reliance on Cole Palmer has been mitigated by the performances of João Pedro, who's been absolutely terrific. And not only was he scoring goals at the weekend, but he was clearing balls off the line from set pieces as well. I mean, that's terrific. That's what you want from a player. I've been bemoaning to Crook for the last 2 hours, saying, imagine if Chelsea had actually bothered to keep all those youth team players that are now ripping up the Premier League. You'd have Livramento and Reece James at right back. You'd have Mark Guehi and Trevor Chalobah as centre half. You'd have Lewis Hall at left back. Instead, Chelsea decided to, I know footballers are commodities, to sell off and whatever and then go and buy a whole new bunch. But this new bunch have won the World Cup. They're the world champions, as they told us relentlessly on Saturday, which I was all for, by the way. But they've got a group. They've got something about them here.
Yeah, and motivated.
They weren't very good in the first half, by the way.
No, but again, but much like Liverpool, they're finding a way to get results when not at their best. 7 points from the first 3 games is more than acceptable. And a motivated João Pedro is always going to be dangerous. And that's why I tipped him up as an outsider to win
You did.
the Golden Boot. I thought he would get a lot of goals this season. He wants to be Brazil's number 9. I think he spent a lot of last season sulking, didn't really see eye to eye with Fabian Herzler. I think clearly he feels loved at Chelsea. He is the main man, even more so now that Liam Delap, unfortunately for him, has picked up the injury. And I felt for Liam because he got the start and obviously it came to a premature end. And that sounds like quite a nasty hamstring injury that may even need surgery. So you could be looking at months as opposed to weeks for him. But that puts more pressure, more reliance on João Pedro. But I get the impression he's going to thrive on that.
And Nicholas Jackson, who's clearly coming back.
Oh, you know how to stay apart, don't you, Sam?
Brighton beat Manchester City on Sunday, and we had loads of phone calls from Manchester City supporters, text messages from Manchester City supporters, who for the first time are starting to ask questions about the team that Pep Guardiola has put together here. I mean, look.
And the team that you tipped for the title.
I did tip them for the title. And it's only 3 games in.
History tells us they can't win the title.
No, it doesn't. History tells us it's been won before.
In 1992.
Yeah, well, that's history. That's still history.
Yeah, the only time it's been done.
The definition of history is things that have happened in the past.
This is the only team in Premier League history who've won the title, having lost 2 of their first 3 games, were Manchester United in the very first Premier League season. So history is stacked against Manchester City.
But it can be done. And Manchester City can do anything, can't they, Kevin? And you've got to believe in Pep Guardiola.
Yeah. Well, look, what I will say is, look, he's a fabulous manager who's changed the game throughout. I mean, never mind just in the Premier League or in all the leagues. He's changed the game throughout grassroots football. You know, you go out and you see them, that everyone's trying to play the Pep way. As coaches and new coaches and as dads as coaches and everything else. So you can never take that away. What I will say is that I sort of agree in terms with Crookie is that it's going to be tough for them now. You know, at this early stage, you have them moments, and when you lose them 2 games and you lose a bit of momentum, you lose people who are sort of believe in what you're trying to do. It is a different Man City now. You know, he relied a lot on, on De Bruyne. Kyle Walker, who's left the building now. Rodri, who's been his rock. Let's be honest, everybody goes on, well, let's not talk about Rodri and let's, see what it is. If he had Rodri, I think he'd be in a whole lot of better place, definitely a better place anyway. And I think he's the glue for Man City, and that's why he won a Ballon d'Or. Let's not take it away from him. That's why they won the Champions League and they won all them Premier Leagues. And I think you're seeing now a team who needs someone who's going to, connect it all together. And for me, that's him. But whether he comes back the same player is always a question. So really interesting in the next couple of weeks after the start to see where they go.
So are you with the Saltmeister? Are you literally ruling them out of the title race now?
I don't think I honestly don't think I can take them out of the title race, because if Rodri comes back and we don't think it's as bad as the injuries was first feared, and he gets in and he gets a run and he plays say 30 games, I think they'll be there or thereabouts. If he's not there, I don't see them being there.
Can we just point out they've got the Manchester derby coming up, haven't they? Next game, isn't it, after the international break?
Well, that's 3 points.
Well, Manchester United are above City in the table. When was the last time they went into a Manchester derby? Above City in the table.
I'm winding him up because I actually said to him in the car earlier on, I said to him, well, Manchester United will win that because they usually do. Manchester United turn up. But in the game, when it's like this, when Manchester City are expected to win and Manchester United are not, Manchester United always turn up. And actually, I watched Manchester United at the weekend. I said to you, I watched the whole game back on Sunday morning. And I thought for the first 60 minutes or so, they were really good with the ball. It's just without the ball that they've got a problem. And I don't know how they're going to solve that if they're not going to bring in a midfielder between now and the deadline, which is clearly what they're not going to do because they're going to buy a goalkeeper instead. James Milner, is he older than you or younger?
Higher or lower?
It's a test.
He's younger than me, mate. Yeah. He's younger than me.
Only just, though, right? He's got 5.5 years between goals. That's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, for some of his ability, yeah. But you got to think that he's always been sort of used as that sort of lad to go and basically what Rodri is. He'll connect the glue. He'll be someone who you know you put in because he's there for a reason. You know, I think earlier on in his career he would have been that you know midfielder who could go here, drive forward, get in the box. He'd be one running games, whereas later on in your career you'd have to sort of hold back and realise your status in the team. So I think that's where he is now. And
absolutely, and I wasn't criticising. I was just pointing out that he's been going on forever, right? He's literally played forever, and he's like what was amazing today with the goal that he scored is I think it was his first kick of the football.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's fantastic professionalism from him, really. You know, to go and do that year in, year out and be there. And he's one who, even I say to my boy, look at him. This is a lad who started at 16 at Leeds, and he's gone and done it at the top level in all top clubs. And wherever he leaves the place where everybody is, what a player, what a great gentleman, lovely lad, and he's won things as well. So, yeah, I mean, what a moment for him, and he'll enjoy that moment. Let me tell you, Sam, he'll enjoy that moment today more than he probably would when he walked in the pitch at 16 as well.
Yeah, I mean, and he's also provided inspiration to all of us because of him, we're all teetotalers, aren't we? I mean, we don't ever have a drink.
Yeah, I can believe that.
Absolutely,
I can believe that you two tonight. Yeah.
Tell you what, I needed a drink for 80 minutes of that game at Anfield. Anyway,
keep you awake, Cookie. Keep you awake, mate.
We've got a manager in the building, so we're going to dive into the managerial merry-go-round as well. Nottingham Forest 0, West Ham 3. And Kevin, you know all about what it's like to be at West Ham United. You know the scrutiny that comes with being a West Ham United player, a captain, a coach. Graham Potter got all 3 points. That makes a huge difference, doesn't it? Because, as we were saying, when you are at West Ham, it's not a club that wins the league or qualifies for the Champions League every single year, but there's loads of eyes on West Ham United.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you. But I was there today. I went the game. Forest were very poor in terms of when I've watched them, and I've been over there because I live in Nottingham and go quite a lot. They were very below par, but West Ham stuck to a game plan, and they come up trumps in the end and won it comfortably. 3 good finishes. Jared Bowen, fantastic finish. And I was there on Friday, speaking to Billy, because we played Orient at the weekend. So we trained there on Friday afternoon, and it's obviously it's a, no point off 2 games. You're in a bit of a worrying situation, if you like, after what's happened at the back end of last season. But I believe that it's just going to take time. and what Graham's got to do is he's got to stand up, be counted, because that's what West Ham fans want. I think he's got it in him to do that, and I believe that given time and him doing what he wants and getting the plays now, he's brought 2 players in on Friday. I think that with what I've seen today, they've got more than enough. But I can never foresee why they let David go. I played with. I played worked under David, I should say. I was one of his coaches, and you can see now what's happening with Evan. And I think we were going in a real good direction. So yeah, it was sad to see, but I see more than enough today to believe that they're going to be okay.
And I'll come back to David Moyes in just a moment. And I suppose the key thing here is that he's got a result on the board. And managers like to win games. Back-to-back wins for Northampton takes the pressure off, doesn't it? I mean, it doesn't matter what level you're at, wherever you are. If you've won back-to-back games going into an international break or a week where you haven't got a game in midweek, whatever it is, it does just feel so much better. Sunday nights feel much better, don't they? I mean, you'll come on and speak to us because you won back-to-back games.
Sam, let me tell you, mate, I'm always comfortable in my job and everything else because I've got fantastic owners and people who understand the game and know where we're at. But it's really nice to be sitting here on Sunday knowing that you've had 2 fantastic results, really good performances against teams who you're not expected probably to beat. But I'm in a real good place this weekend, I must admit, and we've got a free weekend next weekend.
That's the point, right? Managers do get affected emotionally by it, don't they? You really feel it.
Yeah, I actually don't think it's me. I think it's all the family. If I'm honest, mate, I really do. I think it's I'm sort of straight down the line. I'll take it. I'm that type of person where I know when it's going to be, and you've got to sort of front it head on. I think it's the wife, it's the kids who probably, get it more than anything, and they feel it a bit more because they probably feel a bit sorry for me and everything else and know what I'm going through. But I love it, and that's why we do it. That's why managers do it. We love it, and we love doing it because it's our thing, and yeah, that's just part and parcel. You go through the bad times, but you really enjoy the really good times. But what I will say is that I've got fantastic owners who back me and are there for me, so which is great.
Well, good luck to you, and I'm sure it will continue to go north from here because it was a great result for you against a team that nearly got to the Championship last year. But talking about managers, obviously Potter came out, had a little pop at his critics after the game.
Yep.
He's not the first time he's had a little pop at his critic.
No.
Nuno Espirito Santo, who was in the opposite dugout, was suggesting that this isn't going to help his cause of staying in the job. I mean, I think we're getting the feeling that Nuno is probably on dodgier ground now than Graham was, but both of them aren't still in perfect security, are they?
No, it will certainly help Graham picking up that first win of the season because they got into the international break with back-to-back defeats. Then I think he would have had some questions to answer because David Sullivan was already, as far as I'm told, having reservations at the end of last season. But Kev's right, he's been back now in the transfer market. I think Mateus Fernandes could be a really good sign.
It makes a massive difference.
That midfield area has been a problem just in terms of mobility and dynamism, which I think he'll bring. But in terms of Nuno, it just felt like a bit of an uneasy truce between him and Evangelos Marinakis, the owner, going into this game. It was a decent enough performance away at Crystal Palace. It sounds like it was a shambolic performance in this one. He left Douglas Luiz on the bench, and his transfer...
He didn't sign him, though, did he?
...is one of the reasons why there's issues there, because he was an Edu signing, same with James McAtee. So if you're going to do that, if you're going to put your shiny new toys that the owner has invested in and your sporting director has signed on the bench, you're under pressure to produce a performance and a result, and they didn't do that.
You think he's sending a message there?
Yeah, I think so. I think he's been stubborn and saying that this is the way I want to play. These are my players, and the new players are going to have to bide their time. But to lose 3-0 at home to a West Ham side who conceded 8 goals in 2 Premier League games, been dumped out of the cup by an understrength Wolves in midweek, I think there could be a difficult conversation with Evangelos Marinakis. even if he survives this, I think it's a matter of time now until Nuno becomes one of, if not the first casualty of the season in the Premier League.
Okay, speaking of managers, let's quickly touch on David Moyes, because you were talking about how you worked with him before, Kevin. He's back at Everton. They beat Everton. Everton beat Wolves at the weekend with 2 Jack Grealish assists. I mean, let's just sort of marvel at the way that Jack Grealish appears to have been reborn. His statistics off the chart in comparison to what he's produced over the last couple of years. How much is that down to David, and what does he do to get players into the right zone?
As I said, I think, in my opinion, David should still be at West Ham. I think what he done there was, phenomenal. But him going back home, if you like, has been unbelievable for him. Having Alan Irvine, Billy McKinley around him, I can only see them going one way. And then going on to Jack, he seemed like, when I knew when he went to Everton and I knew it got done, it felt like the moment when we got Jesse Lingard. And he had them moments, and we reignited Jesse's sort of career, if you like, in terms of you knew what you were getting. And watching him in that first game, I haven't managed to watch the second game yet. I've seen the goals, but watching them 2 games and for him to have 4 assists is incredible, isn't it? It just seems that he's got his swagger back, doesn't it? Jack's gone there; he's the main man, and I know what it will be like, in and around the place at Everton, and the culture and everything else. What David will be making and creating for everybody, and he'll only add to that, and because he's a winner, he'll drag a few along as well with him. So really interesting to see where they'll finish this season, but I know they'll have a really strong season in my eyes anyway, and I wouldn't foresee them out the top 8. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, I tell you, I said it to Crookie the other day. I actually think they'll get into Europe this year, because I think he has that power, and he knows that football club. And in the new stadium, they've got some good players, especially going forward now. Okay, the striker situation is still a little bit unresolved, really, but the players around the strikers are doing well. I think they need another left back. They probably need another right back as well. But they've got a reasonable blend, and if they're obviously not competing in European football, if they can keep people fit, then they've got a really good chance. Working with David is rewarding, but it's not for some. Crookmeister would not be able to handle it, because it's long hours, isn't it, Kev? It's long hours, and just when you think it's all over, it's, can we just go into the video room and look at this?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Sam, and Crookie obviously will be on holiday probably, wouldn't he? He'll be in his sat abroad, like, oh, sorry, David, I can't make it in today. So look here. Yeah, but I must admit, look, going back when you're there, you're huffing and puffing as coaches and everything else, but it's a great experience. And I managed to do 4.5 years, and I'm very thankful for David to give me that, because now I've took a lot of what he does, and a lot of what he doesn't do, because you sort of learn on the job. And look, he's a fantastic manager. I know why he's done 1,000 games, because he's relentless. And what he's give to me is he's given me that motivation, and to be relentless, and know that I'm relentless now with my staff, with my players and everything else. And that's something which you don't think you have, but you can have it as an individual, but it's trying to then put that to everybody else. And I'm thankful that he gave me that opportunity. And Crookie definitely wouldn't be able to be there.
Crookie also wouldn't be in the VAR hub either. And we saw that this week. And luckily, because you're managing in League One at the moment, you haven't have to worry about that too often.
No.
Because this weekend was a little bit difficult, especially if you were Marco Silva, especially if you were maybe Scott Parker as well, who felt hard done to.
That was a pen
in the game.
Pulled his shirt. That was a pen. That wasn't the most controversial decision of the weekend, by any.
I actually wasn't referring to the penalty. If you'd waited for me to finish my sentence, I would have told you about the offside decision, which I think Scott Parker was more upset about.
Yeah, but they've moved the lines now, haven't they? So it's all good.
Yeah, they've sent us an updated graphic now.
Can we keep strikers scoring goals and stop taking them away? And can we? I mean, look, the way the Marco Silva. If I was Marco Silva, I think I would react a lot. But what I will say is, I'm not missing VAR. Being in League One, knowing that when the decision's made, I can actually have a dig at the fourth official, the lino, the referee at the end, and we can have a real conversation. Is great. But when they get things wrong on VAR, I find it really, really frustrating. Really, really frustrating.
I bet you do. But don't worry, because if you want to have your frustration eased, you can tune in to the Premier League All Access Men in Black podcast with me and Chris Foy. There is no crook in sight, so we can't criticise the decisions. But Chris Foy will tell you why the decisions are being made. And actually, I know that Chris has got a few concerns as well this weekend. So he will run the rule over it on the Men in Black podcast. So if you're subscribed to this feed, you'll get that automatically on this feed. So look out for it. It comes out a little bit later today. Kevin, fantastic to have your company tonight. We really appreciate that. It's brilliant to have a proper Premier League legend alongside us two numpties tonight. We're lucky enough to be joined by quite a few people, but having you here is brilliant. Great.
No, it's let me tell you, it's a pleasure's all mine. It's really good. I seen Crookie not so long ago at the races where he was helping Troy win money.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? That's a shock, because usually I thought you would say I saw Crook at a football match, but no, obviously.
No,
or in the gym.
We were working. We were all working, of course. But no,
absolutely.
I'm looking forward, hopefully, to doing a lot more with you in the future.
Well, we're delighted that you're part of our club now, so we'll have you back, that's for sure.
Looking
So
forward
thank
to
you
it.
very much. That's Kevin Nolan, former Bolton, West Ham and Newcastle Premier League star, now current manager at Northampton Town. The Crookmeister is going to get his beauty sleep because he's got a big day of deadline action on talkSPORT tomorrow. Make sure you listen to talkSPORT, go on talksport.com, get our app, and rate and review our podcast as well, and tell everybody about it. It's Premier League All Access. No one else has all access.